Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Bunker Buddies podcast, where we'll talk about cryptids, conspiracies, mysteries, and much, much more. I am your co-host, JD. You all might be wondering where Blackout Brandon is. We've sent him on a in-person manhunt for his next conspiracy. We'll talk about that more when he comes back, but let me introduce you to two of our guests. Today, we have...
Stephanie here.
And...
Camila.
Thank you guys for coming on. Today, we're going to talk about our BOP, our Beer of Podcast. Today, we are doing not a beer, but a drink. This is a Jack and Coke. Let's hear it. Ooh, nice crack. Let's hear that pour. And we're going to taste it. Now, this is a drink that I've had before. This is actually my go-to drink. Right behind a Moscow Mule, but Moscow Mules are pretty, I would say, controversial at the moment. But we're going to dive on in because today's topic is ghost stories.
Yes.
All right, so we're going to talk about some ghost stories. We've tried to do this one before with Blackout, but we've lost it. It is our lost episode, so we cannot find it. We've lost the tapes. We're going to redo it because we have some interesting stories and some new stories with our guest. So let's talk about it. Have either of you... Well, let's actually start with... Do either of you believe in ghosts?
Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay. I definitely believe in ghosts. I'm a big believer of if I see it, I believe it type thing. It's hard for me to believe things that I don't see. That's just kind of how I am. So... growing up, I've seen some things and seen some unexplainable things. Now, unexplainable does not mean, hey, ghosts are explained, but that is the only logical reasoning in my mind for it. So, yes, I am a big believer of ghosts.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I've seen some shit. I've felt some shit growing up as a kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been touched by ghosts.
Yeah, I'm definitely a believer in ghosts. Maybe not ghosts as what we think or what like TV and media presents, but definitely something of a paranormal phenomenon, I guess you would say. Something that's beyond. Is that ghosts? Is that demons? Is that aliens? Or is it something that we've talked about before, which is it a ripple in the timeline? Is this where two different parallel universes are overlapping at different times, and this is just those two worlds slightly interacting?
I've heard different, ways that ghosts have been presented, whereas, ghosts are of people who have died. There's also the demons, or people who have died that have been malicious in their lifetime can become demons, or the ripple in time to where, you see a ghost repeating the same activity that they would have in their time. So it's a thing of you're seeing essentially an echo of what happened.
Yo.
Yes, exactly. It is a mind-blowing phenomenon that happens around the world. Now, ghosts, and this is one of the reasons that I'm a true believer, is that some things happen in certain areas. Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, they're condensed to a certain area. Where stuff like ghost stories, doppelgangers, that stuff, as dragons, stuff like that have been seen all over the world in different cultures, even if it's a different name, a different description. It is somewhat of the same essence,
Yes.
which I think is really cool. So, I want to break down, do either of you have any cool ghost stories? Because I know that you did just say that you had a couple weird encounters. Do you want to go first with yours?
I got a few of them, and I think I should go first before you, because
Yeah.
you have a little bit of knowledge on what I actually saw, or think I saw. So, I'll start with some kind of throughout my childhood. Me and my brother have experienced throughout, childhood, like I said. One of the first ones that comes to mind is a very big one, and one of my friends childhood friend, I haven't talked to her in a while, but a little while ago, probably a few months, I called her up. I'm like, hey, do you remember this? She goes, I thought I made that shit up in my mind. I'm like, no, that happened. You were at my house. You experienced it. She goes, I did not need to know that I experienced this. So what had happened was my friend was over. We were probably in middle school about. My best friend at the time and my brother. We were in his room and we were making a fort because me and my brother shared a room at the time. We were making a fort, so we needed, blankets, sheets, all of that. We were young enough that we all got along really well. And so I was like, okay, we need some more sheets or whatnot. I knew that my parents had some sheets in their bedroom, bathroom area. So my brother went to go to my parents' bedroom to get more sheets. And he goes in the doorway, and he comes running back. And he's like, Stephanie, I just saw this woman standing in mom and dad's bedroom. And I'm like, what? And we thought he was messing with us. And we're like, what the heck? So I think I went next because I thought he was just messing with us and he was just trying to scare us. He's my older brother, 2 years older than me. So I'm like, okay, he's messing with us. He's got to be. I walk in there and I walk into my parents' bedroom and I see a woman standing basically on my dog bed because it was next to my parents' bed. So it was standing on the dog bed and it had like a lace or a white dress, but it had lace at the bottom trim essentially. And then it had sleeves that went down about 3/4 of your arm and then like 2-inch of lace there. And it was, I don't quite remember the cut of the neckline just because she had black hair. She had a veil over her head. I couldn't see her face and like at her feet. Like the dress didn't touch the ground, but it was close to touching the ground, but you could see that there was no feet there. And I remember the black hair and the veil and I couldn't see her face and I was just like, I was stunned. I was frozen. I didn't know what, like, I still have this image of this woman there, standing there. And I was just so frozen in shock. And I ran back as soon as, like, I got okay again. I ran back and I told my friend. And she's like, no, you guys put this together. You're messing with me. And she goes there. She sees her standing in the same spot. She just stood there standing. So she came running back. And I don't think we saw her throughout the rest of the night, but from my brother's room, you could essentially see out the hallway and you could see my parents' bedroom because it was kind of like, it was one hallway, one straight hallway. My parents were at the end of that hallway, but there was a little cutout, and in that cutout was my brother's bedroom door. So from the doorway, you can see my parents' doorway. So you couldn't see into the room, but you could see the doorway. So we were terrified for the rest of the night. But I remember seeing this woman, and we all saw it, and it didn't move, it didn't do anything, it didn't say anything, couldn't see her face, it was just there.
Hell no.
That is creepy. I have heard this story. Now, I lean to where I was told this, because this does very line up with another, I would say, cryptid, kind of scary story that you would tell children, but let's go ahead. What do you think it is?
Oh man, it's La Llorona. 100%.
100%. Like that's what it sounds like.
From
yeah?
the description.
And before I knew, like, I cannot say the name. I'm the whitest there can.
The
Llorona.
English name is the Weeping Woman.
Okay, I'll say the Weeping Woman.
Yeah.
But I didn't know of the Weeping Woman because my parents, they are very white. We're Irish. We are the white as you come.
Whitest.
Yeah.
Got potatoes in the veins.
From the mountains of Caucasus.
So I didn't hear about this story, and I remember telling a few people, and like I didn't hear about this, and I remember telling Camilla later on, and I described it to her, and she goes, no.
I was like,
no.
bitch.
But I have a little tag on to a recent event with this.
Huh?
Very recent, like 2 weeks ago.
Whoa.
Fuck.
All right.
So, my parents were gone. They were in Arkansas. I had a cousin getting married, so they went out to go to that wedding. Anyway, I was home alone, so I invited some friends over. I had my friend. I'm pretty sure they'd be fine with me. Hang on.
Nice.
Scusi. I had my friend Luna and my friend Cam come over. And we were both sitting in the bedroom. We were laying on the bed because we're just gonna chill and relax and watch movies. And we're laying on the bed, and Luna jolts up and she goes, whoa, what the fuck? I just saw a woman in the bathroom that she just walked by into the closet. And me not wanting to scare the shit out of Cam, I'm like, oh no, it was probably my leg because I was laying back and I had like my leg up and there's mirrors in the bathroom, so there's like some reflections. I'm like, probably had my leg up, moving my leg. She goes, I could have sworn it wasn't like a move up or down, it was just a glide across. Like she wasn't walking, but it was a glide across. And it was a woman with dark hair and she was wearing white.
Hell no.
And I'm like, oh, it was probably, I was telling Luna, I'm like, oh, it was probably, you know, my leg or anything. As soon as Cam goes to the bathroom, I'm like, I didn't want to scare Cam, but describe me the woman that you saw. And she described, she couldn't see much because my leg was kind of in the way.
Yeah.
But she saw a woman with black hair, looked like a white veil on, and a white dress, just basically glide by the doorway. And then so I bring up a picture of the weeping woman. I didn't tell her what I was bringing up, but I bring up a picture of the weeping woman, and I show her, she's like, that's what I saw!
Moral of the story, move out.
All right.
I'm in the process.
Before we go any further, can you give me a quick summary of what La Llorona is, the story? Because
Bitch.
we'll do an episode on it.
I got a story. Sticky like Mickey. Anyways, so basically, La Llorona is essentially like a legend, an urban legend that's very common in Central America. And there's different variations of the story throughout South and Central America, but they all are very similar. Different names, but similar thing. So basically, she was this woman who grew up in a village in Mexico. I'm not sure what part of Mexico she was from, but back in like the 1800s, like old, or maybe even longer before that. But basically, in the town that she was from, she was a young, beautiful young woman, and everyone adored her. All the men were infatuated by her. She was just so beautiful, so kind and everything. And then one day, a very rich and handsome ranchero came into the town, cowboy, and basically was just in love. Like, he was stunned by her beauty. You good?
I thought I was gonna burp for a moment. Continue.
So, anyways, he like comes up to her and they just started dating. They hit it off, and eventually they got married. And during their marriage and everything, they had 2 boys. I don't know if they had names or anything, but the legend goes was that the ranchero, he would leave town and he would be gone for months and months on end and leave the woman home with the kids and everything to watch them. And one day he came back from one of his like work trips or something, and he had a new woman with him, a younger, more beautiful, lively woman. And his wife saw that, and she was just so torn, so heartbroken by it. And out of her anger, she took her 2 boys to a nearby river close to the town. And to get revenge on him, she had drowned them to death in the river. And because she did that, she had soon came out of like her anger and stuff and realized what she did.
She had
And
remorse.
she prayed to God, and God pretty much said, no, you're not forgiven. You will be doomed to haunt the earth, and because of what you did, you're not coming to heaven. And so after that, once God rejected her, essentially, she prayed to something else. We don't know what that something else was. And she prayed to basically get her kids back in whatever means necessary. And because of how heartbroken she was that she lost her kids, she ended up dying by the river. She tried to go after their bodies, but they floated away. They were gone. And she stayed by the river for days and days until she eventually starved, and she herself died by the river. So the legend goes is that she's doomed to walk the earth and essentially take any sort of kid that looks like her kids in her mind, essentially, and she'd take them to the river and she'd drown them and show them to whoever she prayed to. Are these my kids? Can basically trying to switch her kids back because they had passed on. So she would drown other kids and essentially try to like make a trade, but because they're not her actual like kids,
They just take them.
they can't. She can't get them back. She's doomed to do that for eternity, essentially.
Oh, I love this story. I've heard this multiple times. It's definitely going to be an episode this season, and I'm really excited, especially because we are near a body of water.
Yes, and that's.
I would love to go and record this down by the body of water at night
Oh, fuck.
around a campfire, because I think it'd be the best place and time to tell this story.
And my great-grandfather, he's actually seen her in El Salvador, too. Well, we'll get into that in a
She's
minute.
got some stories. You got a few
All
stories.
right. Sticking on this side of ghost stories, I know you have a couple.
Mm-hmm.
What is one that comes straight to your mind right now?
Oh God.
Hotel room. What
That's
you-
a okay. So this happened like last year during my spring break. So me and my family, we went to Vegas basically for a couple nights just to hang out, go drink, gamble, Vegas shit. And we stayed at the Bally's Hotel. And when we were heading over there and stuff, I was doing research on, Vegas, the history of Vegas, because just 3 a.m. shit that I do. And the Bally's Hotel burnt down. I don't know what year it was, like back in like the 80s, I think. And it was under a different name, but it was a huge fire that broke out in the hotel, and hundreds of people died, burnt to a crisp. And I didn't know about that until I realized, oh, we're staying there. And I was like, well, fuck, okay. And so we got to the hotel and everything, and the fucking hallways and the way they have it set up, it's like The Shining, dude. Fucking creepy.
Nah.
The vibes were not it. And so I remember we got to the room, and I remember feeling very like I couldn't breathe. Like it was very like, it was giving
Heavy.
back rooms. So something about it just made me feel like anxious. I was just like, I don't like it here. And my dad's like, well, I can't switch it out. We're just going to have to stay here for the next couple days. And I was just like, okay. And so we stayed. And I remember the first night, crispy.
Noise.
Sorry about that.
And then I remember the first night, nothing really happened, but I just felt uneasy. I kept waking up at like 4 a.m. or something, and
Felt like a heaviness, I guess.
like a heaviness. Yeah, like I couldn't breathe. I don't know how to describe it. It was just something I've never felt like before. It was a weird feeling. And the next night, after we had done our day things and everything, I remember going to sleep, and I woke up around 4 something, again around the same time that I woke up the night before. And I swear to God, I looked over, and like I see my parents in bed and everything, and I looked over and I saw like a lady sitting on one of like the couches, because we had several little like seats and couches in the room, and I just saw like a lady standing there in like a robe, and I thought it was my mom for 2 seconds. I was like, Mom, but then I was like, no, she's in the fucking bed. And I was just staring at it, and they were just sitting there just staring. Like, she had like a white robe and like dark colored hair, short hair, and she was just sitting there just like spacing out, just staring off in the darkness. And I don't know, I had that weird tight feeling again, like I couldn't breathe. So I kind of like rolled over, because I didn't know what I was looking at. I was just like, I'm just gonna roll over and just not look at it. And then I dozed off, and then I woke up, and it was like 20 minutes later maybe, and I rolled over, and it was still there, just staring at me. And I was just like, and I couldn't bring myself to say anything. I wanted to like get up and like go to it, but I couldn't. Like I couldn't physically, I couldn't feel my body. It was a weird feeling. Like I was like numb. I couldn't breathe. I see this thing, and I couldn't process.
That's a big nope for me.
So you said you had like the urge to go and like go over to her?
I wanted to go get up and be like, what the fuck is it?
Man, that's some white people shit.
I know.
Yeah. Well,
Very unlike me.
Wait, but if you think about the weeping woman, she
calls people,
She
and I
calls
mean,
people.
But like I was just so pissed off because it was still there.
You're like,
and
it's still there. I'm trying to sleep.
I,
I
like-
don't want to be terrified.
I saw it first, and I was like, yeah, no. I rolled away, went back to sleep, woke up to like 20 minutes later, looked back, like peeked through my blankets, and it was still there. And I was like, I want to go talk to it, or like go see what it is, because I thought it was like clothes. Yeah, like my mom's fucking robe or something. And I couldn't get up. I was just like stuck frozen there. And I like closed my eyes again, and I had that weird tight feeling in my chest, like I couldn't breathe. And then it was just a horrible, horrible night. And I remember waking up the next day, and I told my dad about it, and I like looked over, and I saw like my mom had like her robes there and everything. She like left her clothes there, and I realized like, oh, whatever it was wearing, it looked like it was wearing my mom's exact fucking robe, and I didn't realize it at the time. And I was just like, what the fuck did I see? I don't know what it was. And I had told my dad about it, and he's like, oh, you were probably just dreaming or something. And then I was like, I don't know. And to this day, I don't know what the fuck I saw.
That is crazy because what pops in my head is that is either a ghost or a spirit of someone that had died there, and this goes back to a previous episode, which I mean, go right now into Spotify, YouTube, you can go find our episode, Doppelgangers. There is a possibility that this was your mom's doppelganger.
Shut the fuck up. No.
Hear me out, because a very similar instance happened. I think we talked about this in the episode. I think it was Queen Elizabeth I or Queen Anne.
No.
Queen Elizabeth I, I think. That before she died, she saw herself
So?
a doppelganger sitting on her throne, and she wasn't the only one. There was other officials in the room, and she ordered it to get out of her chair. And all of a sudden, it got up and vanished.
I just got chills because
So
now
could it have been
a doppelganger.
your mom's doppelganger?
because it was wearing a rope that looks like my mom's.
Yeah, that's what. After you said that, I was like doppelganger.
I thought, and then for two, like when I first saw it, I thought it was my mom just sitting there just spacing out, and I was like, but then I had looked over and she was in bed with my dad. She was like facing me, like in bed, knocked out, and my dad was on the other side. So what the fuck?
So that's very interesting.
Oh,
No.
I'm going to lean more towards ghost on this one.
No.
Just because it is a ghost episode, but I'm
That's-
throwing that out as a possibility, especially where you were. There are a couple places like that one in Vegas that are haunted like that.
Yeah.
Because of some weird
Every-
unnatural thing. I'm also pretty sure
Yeah.
that was also one of the hotels that after being remodeled after that fire, they changed the floor leveling because I'm pretty sure
They
that
probably
also
don't have
had a
13th.
13th floor originally,
Yeah.
and they changed it to a 14.
Yeah.
Because it's that one, and then the other really weird haunted one that I wanted to go see in Vegas is the Clown Hotel.
Fuck,
Fuck
no.
that.
No.
Okay.
It's next to a graveyard. Come on.
No.
Okay.
Clowns.
I think that's, cool and neat and whatnot, but fuck clowns, man. No.
Why are clowns even a thing?
Clowns are pretty awesome.
No.
Let's hear me out. Clowns were not a scary thing until John Wayne Gretzky
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
or Gacy.
Gacy. Yes.
John Wayne Gacy.
Oh
My
yeah.
bad.
He ruined them forever.
He is the one, because before him there was no It, there was no anything.
No.
Killer
dude.
Clowns from Mars, nothing.
Killer clowns from outer space.
Yeah. Him onward. How
ruined
terrible of a person of you to destroy a whole thing. I mean, he ruined clowns. OJ ruined Broncos. Like, shit just keeps going on, man.
I was thinking about a different story of the hotel room when your parents left you in the hotel room when you were a kid.
Oh, that's
Okay.
another. Okay.
I want to hear this one.
This is a La Llorona one,
Yes.
and this one, I think I might have heard her.
Ooh.
Yeah,
So
because-
this was
you as a child being called.
This was me, like freshman year of high school. I remember this fresh.
Okay.
So
Real quick before,
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you mentioned this actually, she calls for children. We slightly mentioned this, that
Yeah,
she
crying.
calls for children. It's weeping woman, because they weep and they cry and they call for you.
Yeah.
So that's
because
something
that's
else.
what she did before she died, just
Yes.
weeping for her kids. So basically, back in this was like 2016. We went to Mexico for my cousin's wedding, and we were staying in Puerto Vallarta, and it's a very coastal type area, very jungly, very like rustic, very old. Like all the buildings are still from like back in the day, like very old kind of structures, and it was very beautiful there. So like where we were staying at.
Nice. This is amazing.
Oh, that was great.
Every time with the Coca-Cola, it always makes me burp. Sorry about that, guys.
The carbonation. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Where was I? So we were staying at this hotel, and there was like a couple of them that were like on the beach, like right there by the beach. And then next door to the hotels was like the old town Puerto Vallarta, where it's like the old rustic, historic buildings and stuff. And my cousin was getting married in one of the old Catholic churches in that town. So we weren't pretty far from like the wedding. So after like the wedding and everything, after the reception, everyone got shit-faced drunk, and we all decided to go calling a night and go back to our rooms. So my sister was staying with me and my family with her boyfriend in the same like little room. And our room has, like, all the hotel rooms there, they had their own little private balcony. And so I remember we got back, my sister opened up the balconies to like let the ocean breeze through because it was hot, it was humid. And I remember getting changed and getting ready for bed, and I was just chilling in my bed, and then she's like, hey, I'm gonna go get food. And first of all, if you've ever been to other countries, like outside of the US and stuff, like dangerous countries, I didn't know this, but like she like left, and from what I've heard, people like the cartels and stuff, they can sneak through the balconies and fucking kidnap you. And she just kind of took off, and yeah, she like opened up all the fucking balcony windows and everything, and then she's like, I'll be back. And without thinking, you know, like thinking back on it now, like that was fucking dangerous. But
you didn't know any better, but she probably knew better.
Yeah, like they know how to climb like up on the balconies, and
it's gotten worse.
Yeah, it's gotten worse.
It's gotten worse.
Yeah. So yeah, fuck you, Steph. Her name's Stephanie.
Not me. Other one.
Anyways.
All Stephs.
All Stephs. So anyway, she left, and I was just by myself chilling. I was watching South Park in Spanish. Funniest shit ever. And I just remember like the volume wasn't that loud. It was like loud to where I can hear it, but then like I could also hear like the sound of like the ciggy below. And I remember like it suddenly got dead ass quiet.
Excuse me.
All right, if you're keeping count, by the end of the episode, please let me know how many burps.
Take a shot for every burp.
For every burp, take a shot.
Where was I? So like I was like,
you could hear the city.
Yeah, I could hear the city, but then it got super quiet all of a sudden. No fucking.
Just dying as you push the soda away from yourself.
Yeah, so
That's
for all of you guys listening, like I went to take a drink and I just didn't. I set it back down.
Yeah. Pausing in the story, but yeah, we don't have video, as you could tell. Just had to push it forward. But if you could imagine, table, like soda going forward, me, 6-pack abs. Just imagine it. Okay, back to the story.
Just everything like went dead ass quiet, and I just kind of like noticed it. I was like, huh, weird, you know, like there was no like breeze. I couldn't hear commotion coming from like the city below, and it was like very like late at night, like maybe 1-2 o'clock in the morning. And I remember hearing like a crying sound, like a oh, like kind of crying sound, and I was like, did someone get hurt? Like it just like someone crying, just like oh, and it started like it was like far. It sounded like it was like far away, like up the street, and then it slowly started getting louder and louder, like oh, like a weird ass fucking crying. And I remember hearing like dogs starting to bark and shit, like just it was the craziest. Like I don't know what it was. So I was just like sitting there, and I was just kind of like looking up like towards the balcony, and I just remember hearing it getting louder and louder, and I had like this weird like scary like anxious feeling in me, and I remember getting up and going towards the balcony, but I didn't have the fucking guts to like look over, and all I heard was ah, and then like while they were crying, I heard "Donde están mis hijos?" and like something like that, and like "Where are my kids?" in Spanish, and I was just like, what? I didn't know at the time what it was. So what had happened was I like slammed the balcony doors shut. I went and closed the other balcony doors because my sister fucking opened up all the balcony like doors and shit. So I went, closed the blinds, and I went back into my bed, and like I hid under the sheets the whole time. And that whole time I fell asleep out of like fear. I was like in my little fetal position.
You were exhausted.
And I could still hear it through the fucking like with this, even though the things were closed, I could still hear it. And eventually it stopped. And I got freaked out because it sounded like it stopped like right below where our fucking balcony was. And I don't know what happened. I didn't get up after that. I ended up dozing off right there in that position. And when I woke up, none of my family members were back. It was like 3-4 in the morning, and no one was back in the hotel. I was by myself. So I have I don't know. I went out. My sister wasn't there. No one was there. I was completely by myself. So whenever I told them about it, they're like, oh, you're fucking crazy. Oh, you're just hearing shit. Oh, and I was just like,
did you know about the, well, you were a freshman in high school. You had to have known about the story at that
not
time.
Really. I really honestly didn't
Did
know.
you hear about it after, like, you told them?
After I heard it, I did research on it, and yeah, that's when I realized, like, oh shit, because I didn't grow up with her, like my parents scaring me with her. I grew up with El Cucuy, the monster, the boogeyman, essentially.
I laugh at that because a neighbor of ours would tell their kids that my dad was the Kukui.
Yeah.
So.
Every time I hear Uncle Cooey, I think of Wizards of Waverly Place, where
I love that episode.
the LaRussos meet Uncle Cooey. Dude, the fact that the mom is all like, "Oh, we used to hear stories about you." Oh yes, and then they say something about like her past. She's like, "No,
Oh no.
what a great episode." Anyways,
I didn't grow up with La Llorona, so I didn't know about her until like recent, like years.
She told me about that story, and I still get chills from it.
the skeptic in me leans not a ghost. On this
I don't know what
story.
it was.
I don't think it was a ghost.
Yeah.
What I lean, and the only reason I lean this way now is because you mentioned the cartel, is that this was the cartel.
It could have
and
been.
The reason why is because
scaring you.
stuff like that happens even here in Arizona. Phoenix has a really, really bad problem with that, with human trafficking, where you think you're going to go help a woman.
Yeah.
And
True.
And it could be a
True.
woman helping another woman.
Very
And that's
true.
usually what they're hoping for. Is they're
Yeah.
hoping that you will go help this woman. Once
Yeah.
you get out to her,
Yeah.
they grab you, put you in a van.
And you're gone.
From Phoenix to the border is 2 hours.
You're gone, yeah.
Before anybody can make a report that you were missing,
Gone.
you're gone.
You're sold.
By the time
But
that
the
they
thing-
put out a missing person report, you could be in South America.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing about this story that, like, the biggest part that gives me chills is, like, even right now, you guys can hear, cars going by because we have the windows open and
Yeah.
everything. You can hear the cars going by and everything. But the fact that it went silent.
Yeah,
that's
it
the
went silent for-
scariest
That is
part.
crazy.
Everything, like, because the ocean was right there. I couldn't hear anything for a good 5 minutes.
Like-
It just went dead quiet.
You can't imagine complete silence because even when we're sitting here, like.
Bluey
well-
scared the shit out of me right
Oh my
now.
God, yeah.
Oh, you guys haven't met Bluey. I'll make a post about Bluey on Instagram. But the bunker has a new puppy. Her name is Bluey. She is a blue healer. Love her. She's a little over a year old now. But she's named after Bluey from our favorite TV show, Bluey. It's an Australian show about dogs, specifically healers.
Yeah.
So, Bluey, I'll post a picture of her. She's a good girl.
Baby.
But yeah, she's you'll probably hear her. She was squeaking her toy earlier in the episode.
And she's got little tags here on. But like I said, you could hear, Bluey moving around. You could hear the cars moving around. Even right now, just sitting here, even if we didn't have those things, we could still hear the static of this. The fact that you heard nothing.
A good nothing. And
I hate that.
we were close to, like, a tropical, like, forest and shit, 'cause
Yeah, so
it's
there's, like,
no
birds.
birds, no nothing. It was just, like, dead fucking quiet. Even the breeze kind of stopped for a minute, too.
Now, like,
That's
even
crazy.
Yeah.
if it was the cartel, because you're still skeptic and just trying
It
to
could
see
have been.
everything from every
Looking back
point
on
of
it,
view.
I could have gotten kidnapped.
They could have, them coming in and slow, whatever they were coming
Yeah.
through slow, they could have, like, scared things away.
Scared animals, because I mean they do kill animals. They scare the locals who live there.
Yeah.
And not necessarily scare the locals. The locals just know to avoid
Not
them.
to fuck
Yeah.
with them, yeah.
Because I heard that it's not like that way now, but
Back then, yeah.
back then the cartels used to take very good care of the communities that they were in.
Yeah.
So you knew, don't cross them, do what they want, because
Yeah.
they're paying to pave those roads. They are paying
Yeah.
for your
Take
schools.
care.
Like Pablo Escobar and shit, too. He did all that for his community, too.
Yeah, not like these new cartels.
No.
Yeah.
So I mean that's why I kind of lean more towards that.
It could have been, yeah.
But the fact that it could have been this, like, almost
Because I was in Mexico.
spiritual,
And we
La
were in a
Llorona.
very, like, old part of
Yeah,
Puerto
to where there was
Vallarta.
a
Like,
old
rustic,
side and-
old, yeah, like, there's new Puerto Vallarta and then old one. And we were in old one. And, I don't know. I didn't know about her at the time. I didn't really, like, think.
and you were near a body of water.
Yes.
Yeah. And,
My great
So if you did go to the balcony, she would have grabbed you, and you would have been.
yeah, because
Everybody got
I
it.
heard it and I was walking to it and it sounded like
chills.
it was like down below, but I didn't want to like look over because it could. I didn't know what I was gonna see.
Yeah,
no.
you weren't gonna fuck around and find out.
Yeah, like imagine you being by yourself and hearing that shit.
Yeah.
Would you look over? What is that? Yeah, no.
That is crazy.
And then that's not even like the one that when my great grandfather saw her. That one's terrifying.
Okay, let's go. What did he see?
Okay, so this happened like a long ass fucking time ago. And this is from my mother telling me this story. And she's not the type that talks about like scary shit. So when she told me this shit,
Ignores it.
I got fucking chills, bro. So she was like back in El Salvador, and she was with my my great grandfather, and he was just telling about how he saw La Llorona, but in El Salvador it's a different name. She's called the Sewanaba, I think. Yeah, the Sewanaba. It's a different name, and in El Salvador's version, she's. Huh.
Do you know the translation to that? What it is or no?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'll have to do research into it because it's a whole different like urban legend.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that on our La Llorona episode. And
Yeah. So this is like a different version of her, I guess.
it's kind of like when we talked about the
different cultures have different
chupacabra.
things.
When we talk about the chupacabra,
Yeah.
there's different names for it, different descriptions.
Yeah. So from what she told me was that one day he was riding his horse through like a little like part of El Salvador where it was just jungle, but there was a little river that he would like follow, and he was riding one day, and it's like a very shallow like little river. It's not like a deep like a creek sort of thing. And he was riding one day on his horse, and one day he had stopped, and my mom said the same thing. Like everything went quiet. He didn't hear the birds or anything. Everything went quiet around him, and he was just trotting along with his horse, and suddenly he saw a woman like cleaning clothes or something by the river, and she had long brown like light brown like kind of hair, and she was fucking naked, by the way, and she was just like washing her clothes, and he just like sees this woman, and he's like, what are you doing out here, like in Spanish of course, and she's like, oh, I'm just like cleaning my clothes, and you know, she was just doing her thing, and she's like, I may need a ride back into town. Can you take me back to town? And he's like, where are you from? And she said, oh, it was the town that they were from. I forgot the what part of it was they were from at the time. And he's like, he felt off about it, but he was just kind of like, well, yeah, you can hop on my horse and I'll take you back. And she like kind of dresses herself sort of like half out, like with the wet clothes. And then as she walked towards the horse started backing up away from her, and to the point where it almost knocked off my great grandfather. The horse did not want this woman to get close to him, and he's like, I don't know what's wrong with my horse. And the lady was just like, she was trying to get on, and the horse would like back the fuck away or like try to kick her away. The horse is freaking out, and suddenly, I don't know if the lady had said something to him or not, but she just started laughing, like grinning, and then she just started like laughing like in a weird way, and then she started to slowly like back away into the creek, and she started going deeper and deeper and deeper until you couldn't like see her anymore. And my grandfather was like, he doesn't know what it was, because it was a creek, it wasn't deep, and she just like
go into the water.
Yeah, he like walked over to where, and it was shallow, like up to his knees. So he like, to this day, he had no idea what it was, but he knew it was something else. So he like got up on his horse and just took the fuck off. He had no idea. Yeah. I don't know what it was. He says it's the Sewanaba, because she didn't cry or anything like La Llorona.
Now, with that, I've heard other stories. Now, I heard a little bit through the show Supernatural, but then I looked about it. But there's also these type of, ghosts or cryptics type thing that basically get you to cheat. And then if you, say cheat where you're taking this woman home, taking her to her home type thing.
That's what the Sewanaba is. You. Yeah. Yeah.
So what first popped in my head, very similar to what you were saying, is that, and it's going to be an episode, I don't know why I'm going to do it, but I really want to do it, is that there is, I think it's Highway 2A in Maine, but it's this long road in Maine that goes around like this forest area, and at one point you're going out into like middle of nowhere, but there will be ghosts that will appear in the middle of the road, either broken down,
oh hell no,
or like in wedding dresses, and they will try to get you to give them a ride. If you do not give them a ride or stop to give them a ride, they will follow you, they will crash your car, stuff like that.
Hell no.
If you get them into your car, as you get like a mile down the road, they basically just evaporate out the back of your seat and then appear
Hell
standing
no.
behind your car in the road as you continue to drive off.
Fuck
So,
that.
like, to see if you're a good person type thing.
Yeah, and
Fuck
it's so
that.
and there's
Ooh.
multiple stories in Maine. Maine is one of the biggest places I want to go.
Fuck
But
Maine.
also Stephen King like messed Maine up
Yeah.
for me, but I really want to go to Maine.
Maine is
But
really
that's what it
pretty.
got me thinking of is that.
Yeah, because in her story, she's like a very beautiful woman and she lures men. Like when, especially she'll hang out like around bars and stuff and she appears as a beautiful like young woman and she'll kind of like attract men, be, you know, like sexual, like be like, hey, come touch my titties or something.
But in Spanish.
But in Spanish, be like,
But in
hey.
Spanish.
And she'll like lure them out. And then once she gets the men to follow her, she turns into a fucking witch, old ass fucking bitch, and she'll eat them, essentially, scratch them up and eat them. Jennifer's Boggy type of thing.
That is crazy.
From the descriptions of her, she looks like the witch from Left 4 Dead. She'll like grow long ass
Ooh.
fucking nails
Okay.
and she'll just attack the fuck
With
out of
those
you.
I got a story that came to mind. I
Oh,
thought about
no.
it in the middle of your story, and then you reminded about it. We want to talk about this one a bit more. I think we.
That's pretty much like the legend of it, and that's pretty much like what my mom told me. Like she just fucking naked lady in the woods and
the
almost.
fact that that got passed down though is so.
Yeah, my mom remembers my grandpa telling me, and that the horse was acting crazy, and that he came back to town, and
But those are the stories that I love though. Is
Yeah.
Because not only was it passed down, it is a lesson that also got passed down. Where,
Yeah.
hey, just letting you know.
don't go
there-
out in the fucking woods. That's
there
what
might
they
be
used
naked
to.
women by the river.
Yeah.
If you talk to them, be nice to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we got another one. We got them, boys.
We got a few stories here. So
Almost threw
I'll tell
up.
the story that came to mind. It's a very short story, and then I'll tell a few of my mom's experiences.
Okay.
Those are some cool ones. So, this first one is I was hanging out at my friend's house. Oh, I should probably tell backstories about the house. Okay, so we and my group of friends were hanging out at my friend's house, and we were telling stories, essentially. We were telling stories to each other, and my friend was telling stories about this house, specifically the house that we were in. So we started telling these. I'll tell the stories first because it happened during this. Scoozy. That was another good one. So she lived with, her brother, her sister, and her mom. And her brother got up in the middle of the night one time and went to go get some water. And as he got some water, he saw that, his sister was sleeping on the couch. And he goes, okay. And he goes to go back to bed, and he sees his sister underneath the dining room, basically rocking back and forth crying. And he's looking at the dining room, looks over at the living room. She's still sleeping on the couch. So he's like, nope, and goes back to bed. He just goes back to bed.
He just left her there.
He just left because he saw two of his sisters.
Which one was which?
Just a blonde-haired girl, one sleeping on the couch that, looked like his sister, and the other one that he saw, a blonde-haired girl rocking back and forth under the table. So,
Doppelgangers.
yes. So that's the first story of
They're
this.
real. Confirm.
So, second story of this house was, and these we were all telling, like my friend was telling us these stories while we were in a circle talking about scary stories. And the second story, she doesn't quite remember it. She doesn't remember a lot of her childhood, but her mom remembers this, and her mom still is like, yes, I remember this. She saw, my friend had an imaginary friend when she was younger, and I don't remember what the name was, but if I were to ask Megan is my friend, instead of saying my friend a lot, Megan is my friend, this is the person in this story. Instead, if I were to ask her what her imaginary friend's name was, she'd be able to tell me, because it was so, it was such a distinct part of her life, and something that even when she got older, her mom would tell her stories like, hey, you did this with your imaginary friend. So one time, Megan was underneath of the dining room table playing with her imaginary friend, and she had said the name. She's like, stop it. And she had said the imaginary friend's name, and Megan's mom sees Megan get basically pushed out from under the table. She didn't push herself. It was like she got shoved. She got thrown back along with the chairs that were around the outside of the table. And so Megan ran looked across the room and was crying. And her mom's like, what the hell just happened? Because she didn't do that. She was playing with her imaginary friend. What the hell just happened? I don't know exactly what happened after that, but that's another one of the stories.
So with that, I just want to emphasize that kids are very more open-minded and susceptible to seeing paranormal activities. This happens quite a bit.
Yeah.
And a lot of imaginary friends turn out to be ghosts. Like, kids will be seen talking to, like, kids that are in the vents, that are in the houses, and it's super weird like that.
He's in the wall.
He's in the walls.
He's in the goddamn
But that's what it made me
walls.
think of, is that something
Something
didn't want to share a toy and just
I know for sure.
yeeted a kid. Which
Yeah.
I get every now and then. You got to just yeet a kid.
You gotta punch a
But-
kid.
Sorry, I just had another. Finish your story.
So now there's multiple instances where Megan was playing with her imaginary friend and the imaginary friend got angry with her type thing. But there was also in the back bedroom, not the back bedroom, but one of the back bedrooms, there was, excuse me,
Count it.
there was basically knocks in the closet.
Sounds scary.
And they would have conversations. Now, I did this with my brother about, like, knocks being 1 for yes, 2 for no. I'll tell that story
But you
bit
also
later.
get into the spiritual part of it, that 3 knocks for ghost is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
So, she would have conversations with this ghost, and she basically got an idea of that there was a kid ghost in this house, but a lot of times, like, the conversation would just be cut off. And then when she'd get to talk again, now this is her older, not necessarily as a kid, but when she'd get older, she would have the conversations and she'd be able to talk with the ghost after they get cut off for a little bit. They found that there's 2 different things in the house. There's one that's evil and one that's a kid. So now she doesn't necessarily know what happened, but from what has happened, what she's been told and things that she has discovered, she thinks that there is a kid ghost that, you know, was her imaginary friend, but there was this other entity that was posing as a kid that was trying to, you know,
Pedo ghost.
Annabelle?
it was like trying to weasel its way into the house and take over Megan's life.
Yeah, that's what. Well,
Seeing
demons
that
and
second
shit
one
do.
of Megan, and that wasn't just like one time, that was multiple times where they saw a second Megan.
Oh hell.
I lean again, doppelgangers.
Yeah.
Again, I definitely lean doppelgangers
But
over
how-
ghost on this one, because that was another theory of doppelgangers, is that they are evil, like, versions of you trying to replace you.
Now, what is doppelganger essentially? Because doppelganger is still part of, you know, the paranormal. It's not normal. It's not necessarily a ghost, but it's an entity of sorts. So it could have, you know, posed as whatever
it's-
it wanted to be.
What if it's you from another universe?
It could be. It could also, if we get into the religious aspect, a demon
Yes.
who is trying to pose as you to
Innocence, yeah.
replace you and take the innocence of someone. I mean, there's stories of even of people going in to do exorcisms, saying that they were talking to the devil himself, and part of the questioning is, "Are you the devil?" And he goes, "No." "Are you Lucifer?" And he's like, "I was called by that name, but
Yeah.
not anymore," referring to that was the name God gave him,
God gave him.
etc., etc.,
Yeah.
etc. And I mean, there's a lot of stories that we can go into demons, but I definitely think that is a huge connection and a part of ghosts. When you talk about any ghost, is the paranormal, where it comes into spirits, ghosts, demons, kind of all
Yeah.
kind of tying together with that.
Now, that's not the end of this, because Megan was telling us the story, like all these different stories and what
Jeez,
they figured out.
I don't know what's going on with Megan
Poor
here,
Megan, bro.
but
They're
Dude,
coming for
Meg-
her.
Megan
She
has
still
something
lives in
in
this
her.
house.
Okay, Megan has something in her. Something's in that house. She got to go.
She
It's
still
that. It's that
lives-
one.
she's
What's that
had
one
people-
chick from The Exorcism, or The Exorcist, or whatever it's called, out in Rhode Island with the 3 little kids or whatever? That the little girl still lives there. You know that? She still lives in that house.
Who?
In Rhode Island. That movie. It's like The Exorcist, about the witch that hung herself in the yard and haunted the house, and the family
The
moved in.
Conjuring?
The Conjuring.
Fuck that.
The little girl in Rhode Island. She still
you
lives in that house.
serious?
Yes.
Bitch, get out.
Megan, you're in The Conjuring. Get out.
Dude, she still lives, but she's had like people come in to like bless the house because they've gotten to where things
welcome
have.
to Rhode Island.
They have had things been thrown and stuff, like some creepy shit has happened, and so they've had like people come in, bless the house. They've had it blessed multiple times, saged multiple times,
In multiple different religions.
and it's just the fact of like they do it, and then a while later they may have to do it again because things get active again.
It's very attached.
It's attached, and so
There's a body under the house.
Oh, and you know where
off.
you know where she lives. I'm not gonna, of course, say where she lives, but she lives outside of the town. She lives outside,
Yes.
right on the edge. You know where that mine area is out
Yes.
there. She is right on the edge.
You know what else?
So I could tell you who's under that house. It's probably Spaniards, because Spaniards were up and down these
I was
hills.
gonna say they live on the res, close to the res. Technically,
They're
all of this is the
they're
res.
Spaniards, they're natives. Either way, both of them hold grudges after
They
death.
are pissed.
So I'm getting to what I believe is the best part. So she's sitting telling us all
The
this.
best part.
Well, the best and worst. She's sitting telling us all of this. So it's probably like 10 of us there, and we all like. Some people made a fake Ouija board and they were playing with that earlier in
Oh
the night.
hell no!
Yeah, I just recorded. I didn't touch it. I didn't mess with it. But
Oh,
I was just
love
like,
that.
You're
We
white.
should have broke one out for this
You're
episode.
white.
Because
Nah,
we should have
I
broke one
didn't
out,
mess
because
with
I know
it.
I have one in the house, and we'll talk about that next.
No.
Anyways,
as long as
Ouija
you respect
board.
them, you're fine. But I didn't mess with it.
We respect them as much as we respect the goat man. Sipping on your bridge, goat man.
So, we're sitting telling these stories and all, and earlier, before I had my hands on Luna's shoulders, just because I was standing behind Luna, I was just messing with her hair, or shirt, or whatever, but I ended up, walking around, because we're sitting in the dining room area, and there's a it's one big room, but there's, an angled divider in between, kind of going diagonal, but it's only in the middle, and it's probably 5 feet. So I go kind of around that to around the other side of the dining room, and Luna thinks that I'm behind her, because I was, and she sees me come up around the corner. As soon as she sees me, her eyes get big, and she feels what feels like these long fingers that have been, this hands that has been sitting on her shoulders. She feels them slowly drag off, and the fingers are longer than they should be.
Ooh.
Hell no.
Oh, that was terrifying, because Luna, she sees me, her eyes get big, and she feels those fingers come off, and she stands up, throws herself forward.
Careful
and
there. You almost knocked my water cooler over.
she throws herself up, because she's sitting on a rocking chair, too. That makes it even worse. She throws herself up, and so the rocking chair is rocking back and forth, and she goes, what in the act? She was cussing, ranting and raving, and we're like, Luna, we didn't know what was happening. She just freaked out, got up, and was yelling.
Dipped,
And
yeah.
finally, once we calmed her down, she told us that she knew that I was behind her, but when I left, she didn't realize that I left, because hands were still on her shoulders, and fingers just dragged off of her shoulders.
Nope. Burn
never
it to the
going to
ground. Burn it to the ground.
Never going to Megan's house.
Never going to Megan's.
Sorry, Megan.
Yeah, it's a very creepy house, and now it hasn't been active like that for years, because they haven't done things like that. They haven't messed with Ouija
You
boards.
scared me.
or
I thought
anything
you
like that,
saw
but-
something, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, I was like, bitch, what are you
No,
looking at?
I'm getting a message from a friend. So, continue.
He looked over at his phone off to the side, and we thought he was looking kind of behind us a bit.
Also, because you can't see, because we're not doing a video recording, I have a magnet mounted on the back of my phone. It's a motorcycle case. So I will mount it randomly at random places, because anything that's metal, my phone will stick to it. I have it stuck to the fridge right now. So I looked over, and my phone is at eye height. So it's like I'm making contact with a person. But my phone's just floating there in air.
My heart just dropped into my ass right now. I was like, what?
I know, because I just darted my head, and it's because I saw the light go off.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to hop into a couple of my stories before I hop into our main story, because we're almost coming up on an hour. We might split this into 2 episodes.
Oh, shit.
So I still have plenty of stories.
But I'm going to go off my first one that happened here at the end of the year, beginning of this year.
I'm sorry, here?
Here. It was our New Year's party. We were all sitting here in the living room. We were all sitting.
Yep.
The only person standing was Blackout Bread, and he was standing where I'm standing in the kitchen. And all of a sudden, books flew off the shelf. And not like, oh, they fell off the shelf. They went from the corner of the room to the middle of the room.
Which
The shelf?
For you guys, it's probably about like 7 or 8 feet away from where the bookshelf is to the middle of the room.
Oh,
The
it's good.
haunted bookshelf that I gave you?
Yeah, and it's ripped. So the reason that I think that's so weird is because it is a haunted bookshelf that we didn't find out until after you gave it to us.
Yeah.
Why is it haunted?
Oh, because it belonged to my sister, and she's into weird shit. She does taxidermy. So she's had this shelf for a long time, and just like 4 or 5 years ago, she bought a skull, a real human skull, from a catacomb that's out in Ireland, and she had it on display there the entire time she's had this shelf. And she had given it to my mom like a couple years back, and we kept it. And I haven't really gotten any activity. So the fact that you got activity is
it's
insane.
super weird. And it's not like me and Blackout saw it. There was 8 people in this room.
Yeah.
We all saw it, and one of the books it flew off got ripped. And it was not it got
Fuck.
torn. It cut perfectly off. One whole outer sleeve of it got cut off. And I was like, that's super crazy.
Hell no.
That's one of the weirder things that I've ever had happen. I've had small incidences where I've dropped salsa jars out of the fridge when I was younger, and they floated in air to the point where my cousin saw, and I was able to grab it. Time froze.
What the fuck?
I dropped it and it just floated back up, and I was able to grab it again. And it happened like that, from the ages of 5 to about 12. Stuff like that would happen to me all the time. Super weird things. I mean, being down in my cousin's basement and pool cues floating as we're playing down there. We'd be doing something, and then over on the pool table, a pool cue would come up off the pool table and then drop. And it's not it rolled off. It feet off the ground, moved, and then dropped again.
Now, here, I had an incident where you were here, Brandon was here. I don't know if you were here or not, but I stayed here a little bit, especially when Blackout was here. I'd put my stuff in the corner, and it was soon after you guys got the bookshelf. I'd put my stuff in the corner, and I had my keys sitting on top of my bag, and we're all just sitting kind of on the couch, and we hear a car alarm going off, and I'm like, that car alarm sounds familiar. So I go out on the balcony, and I'm looking and all. I'm like, it's not, it sounds familiar, but I don't think it's my car. And I'm looking and looking. I'm like, I think it's my car. And Brain's like, he goes over to the balcony. He's like, yeah, it's your car. And I'm like, where are my keys? Where did I set my keys? I go over. My keys have been sitting in the exact same spot on top of all of my stuff, and my car alarm is going off. My stuff is sitting next to the bookshelf.
Okay.
I have to run down there, and because I'm trying to press the button while I'm up here, and it's not going off, it's not shutting off. I have to go down there, and finally when I get down there, it goes off.
And we're not far from the cars.
No,
Oh,
we're
no, they're,
literally
right down there.
right above it.
I mean, we're on top of your car right now.
Yeah, and it was probably 5 more feet difference, and
Yeah.
it still wasn't very far. And I come down there, and I finally get it off, and they're like, oh, you trying to wake everyone up? I'm like, I don't know. My keys were sitting there, and it went off. And I come up, and I'm like, what in the hell? My keys were sitting there.
Yeah.
No one touching it.
Yeah.
No one was there was one person down there. No one else was around. Yes, someone could set off the car alarm, but there was one person around, but they were working on a vehicle. They were underneath of the vehicle.
Yeah, it's my neighbor. He works on that truck all the time.
So, and he's like, and I'm like, hey, was anyone else around here? He goes, no, I was the only one here, and I was underneath of the vehicle. And I'm like, what the hell?
Jesus.
So thank you for bringing a ghost into my house.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was a housewarming gift.
The best,
Right.
Well, I mean, besides
having a
that,
stroke.
they haven't done anything, even though Blackout told me not to. I have antagonized the ghost.
You fucking would.
He hasn't done
would.
anything. I've been waiting for him to break, because I have a couple breakable things that are up there now, including
Be careful what you wish
my
for.
mom's remains and my grandma's remains up on that shelf now.
Oh shit.
So maybe they are all getting along, and that's why nothing has happened since. I've put remains up there, but
Don't piss him off.
they have friends now.
That
He's not pissed.
baseball up
They're all
there.
doing stuff. That baseball's up there. I got a
Like
bus
a
of
throw it at you.
Abraham Lincoln up there.
There's a family plate thing up there.
Yeah, I mean, there's breakable things. I mean, I got the big boy bobblehead.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, like, there's stuff up there that they can break. I'm just waiting for him to do something. I've antagonized
Don't
it
say that
multiple
right now,
times.
because if I see something fall, I'm out.
All I'm saying is
I am out.
I need somebody to talk to. Maybe that's also why he hasn't done it, is because I've just been needy, and that ghost has just
He's
been
I'm
like,
done with this dude.
Not
He's
for me.
asking for too much here, man.
I don't know. Maybe he went to Blackout to go look for that cryptid. But do you have one more story before I dive into this one? Because I think this one should wrap up the episode, because this is my favorite ghost story of all time. Thank you guys so much for listening. Remember to follow us on all our social medias. And again, if you have any stories that you'd like to share with us, you could do so at thebunkerbuddies@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much. Stay safe, stay locked, stay loaded. See you next time.